Thank you, sir. Uh, Certainly, everybody would agree that you have raised some of the very pertinent questions, very important questions here, and the kind of apathy one sees towards migrants, or the kind of lack of understanding of the phenomenon of migration and return migration among the policymakers is quite amazing. And you have raised the point that nearly 1.5 million migrants will be coming back to India, and almost 3 lakhs or 300,000 to Kerala only. While we wait for some of the questions, I think there are some very interesting questions which have started to come already. So maybe I'll just try and put them in some form to you, and then we can have one round of the question answer session. So there is a question regarding women unskilled migrants who have been working in Gulf countries in the domestic household sector, and what would be their situation and how that would be affected. Uh, Also, the fate of agencies, the HR agencies who have been working to send migrants to these countries, how would that be affected? Also, regarding the long-term impact on the economy of the states who send the migrants. I mean, Kerala and Tamil Nadu, and then other states also. How these states would be affected in the long term in terms of their economic issues. You certainly raised some very important points regarding the remittances and all, and also the issue regarding the skilling of these migrants. So I think these are some of the very important issues, specifically with regard to the skills. Given the fact that most of the youth population in India remain kind of wanting when it comes to skill development. So I think these are some of the issues right now. And there's another question: is there any policy level initiatives by by India or Indian states to talk to the Gulf governments and take care of the issue in the immediate and in the long term? So maybe perhaps you can take some of these questions now, and then some other questions also. Perhaps we can also ask Professor, I can see Professor Pant here, Pansa is here. So maybe he can also ask some questions. But maybe first I'll give you the floor to answer, and then we can come.
Yeah, let me take some questions. Then maybe we can have the next round of questions. Because I have given more time. We have another 30 minutes. Let me talk to you something on the women migrants. I think this is something we have to discuss deeply on that. Partly because we have no statistics. Anyway, this is, I was telling them long time back. And our migration data from the Kerala tells us out of this 100 lakhs migrants, which I'm telling, government says 9 million, I'm telling 10 million. At least 20 lakhs supposed to be, between 16 to 20 lakhs will be women migrants, which includes domestic worker, nurses, and also accompanying women, because in Dubai alone, 20% of the people are staying with their families, wives and children, because they have Indian school. So 20% of them are working. But then the problem is, before we talk about them, but the problem in the Gulf, I know they will have problems. Some of them might not want to come. They may be not able to come. Their problems are there. But the problem for them starts from India. We have what is called them. We have disabled them from India itself. We tell them you don't go. If you are not 30, you should not go. I think I was asking some time back some of the members in the government, where did you get this magic age 30? Where did you get? I'm surprised. 31 can go. 29 cannot go, which is very sad. But many countries, what is this? You are talking about, that means you are already started discriminating them in India itself. Forget about their, what they do. Many of the women are going underground. For example, I think 7-8 years back, I went to do a study on domestic worker. I went to a POE office. I was sitting in the Hyderabad office and I told the POE, I saw a lot of women outside, sir. I am sure some of them are less than 30. Some of them are less than 30. They said, yeah, but you look at their passport, can you tell me who are less than that? So he given me 100 passports, which are in this table. So I look at the passport, then I told them these 5 women, I think they are less than 30. Call them inside. They are not 30. They got the passport with age 30. Yeah, today you can manipulate your passport. You can manipulate everything, including the Aadhaar card. People have Aadhaar card, but they are not in the NRC. We know that. So please remember that we are not allowing them to go. So we should abolish this 30 years policy. And we should abolish these ECR passports. Why you have ECR passport? Everybody is equal. Why you are creating two class of passports? If you are 10 standard pass, stand in the other queue. What is the day? Nothing. So we are creating barriers for women migration. I think we should scrap all the things in the post-COVID. If you scrap them, they can also move freely. Now they are going underground. They go on visit visa, then they go underground. They go on some visa, they go underground. Why you are allowing them? They have an equal right to work. They have equal right to earn. As long as I have equal right, my daughter, my wife, my sister have equal right. I can go when I am 21 to Gulf. My wife cannot go. My sister cannot go. What is this policy? I think we have to protest that. I think that's something we have to start looking at our own eyes. How are we treating our women migrant equally? Then how can you ask others? First, you should look at your eyes. First you clear your eyes. Then you tell other people eyes have some problem. We are not treating them well. I think that might continue that. They are already underground. They have no proper passport. They are living in fear. I think this is something very important. Second point, I also want to talk about these recruitment agents. Yesterday, I was with the MEA, and there were recruitment agents were sitting many places, and they were talking about post-COVID. What will be the recruitment in the future? You may not be able to collect money, so much money, what you are collecting. They will not come for interview. No, you can't move. You can't move between cities. You cannot move between districts. You cannot move between your office to outside. Okay, everywhere there is a red alert not because of any climate change, because of COVID. Everywhere red alert. So you can't make money. So they have to plan. So I told them, you have to think innovative ideas. Don't collect money from the migrants. Collect from the employers. I told them, I went to Dubai to do a study once. They told me, sir, I wanted 100 workers. I paid to the agent in India. I will give you each worker. You give me best worker. I'll give you the train ticket, flight ticket, and I'll give you $100 service charge. I pay them. But I was told your Indian agencies are collecting them again. This is wrong. I met one of the recruitment agents in Philippines. He said, I am in the business for last 40 years. I visited 180 countries to send Filipino migrants. I never collected single paise from any of the migrants I have sent. I collect from other fellows. Why should I collect from my own citizen who are Filipinos? I think we should talk about ethical recruitment. I think they will learn from the COVID-19. I think they will learn. In fact, I was told, a few days back, I got a call from London. They asked me, sir, can you send me 100 nurses from Kerala? I said, I am not a recruiter. I am a migration expert, not the migration recruiter. Then I thought it's a good business. I can start after my retirement from CDS. After 1 year, I can start the agency. I can send nurses. It's a big business. Then I told him that Kerala sent a lot of nurses. I know, sir, can you get me the nurses who cured the old people from Kottayam? 9-year-old people you have cured. There will be a lot of demand for nurse migration. So I think that is mostly women. So I think we should talk about the recruitment agency will change. Then about what is the policies, we should talk about that. Return migration, there is no policy. I told you, even the immigration bill is not talking about that. But the state governments are burning the figures. Like I was telling you, 10,000 crores less in Kerala economy. It's a big money. It is maybe more money than what they earn from allowing people to drink in the road. And it will have implication for the economy, because when you talk about 3 lakh migrants are coming back, please remember we are talking about 3 lakh families. One family supports 5 people at home. One Gulf migrant will support 4 people at home. So we are talking about 15 lakh people. Families will be affected. It's not individual. Migration is individual. But the impact will be on the families. So I think we should look at the families. That's why I was talking yesterday yesterday with some of the another discussion with somebody on the internal migrants. They said government decided to give 5 kg rice to all the internal migrants. I told them 5 kg rice for 5 people in the house. My God, you are not doing anything. There will be no food security. 5 kg, 5 people, 1 month, nothing they can do. They will eat only for 2 days. So 28 days they have to starve. So similarly, we have to talk about 3 lakh families. Kerala is started talking about that. They are planning some policies. They are planning something. But the unfortunate is that other states are not talking about that. That is the very sad. Other states, it is not only Kerala is receiving return migrants. I told you, out of the 84 billion came last year, 20% came to Kerala. Even you do some other estimate, 25%. 75% of the $84 billion went to other part of India. What are they doing? What are they doing? Don't treat migrants as a what is called the cow which gives you milk. You also should protect the cows. Not only as long as they give you milk, you protect them, then you send them to the road. No, you should protect them. Then they are not giving milk. Now they are not giving milk. I told you they are coming back without any money. So I think we should talk seriously on return migration. Every government should talk, and they should plan policies for them. I'm going to stop here. Let us get some more questions, please. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. I think there is so many questions here. It's really difficult to keep pace with all the questions, but I'll try and put it in some kind of a nutshell. And so most of the question, there was one question about the Indian policy to not accept bodies even of those migrants who have not died due to COVID. So some of them have been refused. 2 people raised that question, and then there was one question regarding how did you come across the number of 1.5 million people who would be coming back. So I mean, maybe you can throw some light. Since you have been working on the area for such a long time, one can understand that you would have arrived at it because of the surveys you have done extensively. And then there was one question regarding since you have been talking about the new opportunities that will come for migration. So if you can throw some light on that as well. Then there were some questions regarding the welfare of migrants, both the general migrants and specifically healthcare workers in Gulf countries from India. Is there any policy initiatives by Government of India or Government of Kerala to talk to the Gulf countries and figure out how that can be mitigated? Then there was also question about the issue of extending the immunity to the migrants because of the visa expiration issue. And one of the questions said that Saudi Arabia and Qatar has already extended the visa for Pakistani expatriate workers for 1 year. So is there any initiative regarding Indian migrants as well? And then there was question about the larger political impact on India-Gulf relations or India relations with Gulf countries. Dr. Kishishian was also asking question about the issue of amnesty to the migrants, and is there any discussion at the level of policy or at the level of MEA, if that can be something which you can perhaps try and throw some light. Then there was a question about impact on India in terms of extremism, because there were some news reports about some of the challenges related to extremism among migrants in Gulf countries or those who are returning to India, or even if not really a question of extremism, but also organized crime, because we know that a lot of organized crime also take place through these routes. So if there is any you have come across any data regarding that during your research or surveys. There was also some question regarding the Gulf migrants facing problem due to the sponsorship system, the problems related to theft of wages by employers in Gulf countries. A lot of questions which the Gulf migrants in Gulf have faced in the past, not necessarily always, but they have faced in that. So perhaps you can, throw some light, and then we can,
Yeah, I think
time permits, we'll
I
go
we
again.
have more question than I can provide you answer. Look like so that's a
Certainly,
good
yes.
thing. There is a lot of interest. Of course, people can write to me and they can read something. Yeah, let me pick up some points. I think something very important is that people talk to me about this migration policies in the Gulf, or what is called the localization policies. I will tell you, it has failed because first time I went to Gulf to study migration was in 2002. I remember the ambassador was what is his name? I don't remember. He was in UAE ambassador in 2002. My name is not coming. I was sent by the Kerala government. I went with a white passport. And I was reported to the Indian embassy first because there was no MOE at the time. MEA had a Gulf division. They given me the visa to visit. When I went there, they were telling me at the time, there was a policy called Emiratization, UAE. And they also told me, there is a word they told me that time, an expert who is helping the UAE government to control migration. He himself is a migrant. Very important is that he himself, he is advising government how to control migrants. He is a migrant. And he talked to me, very nicely. He told me that, and then he told me about one word, told me first time I never heard the word called demographic imbalance in the Gulf. I asked him, I am a demographer, you are telling me a new word. He said demographic imbalance means all the Gulf countries don't want one country citizens. We want to distribute visas to all the 200 countries. But even then, even today, India is #1 in all Gulf countries having the highest number. That means Indians are able to maneuver the policy. We know how to corrupt. We are very clever in that. I don't need to tell you people. We are very clever. We are there. We are there. I don't think that any policy will immediately stop migration because this policy will fail. This policy is there everywhere. What is Brexit? It is about migration. What is America first by President Donald Trump? It is migration. So please remember these policies will be there and migrants will continue to go because migrants are not doing the local jobs. Migrants are doing what we call them 3D jobs: dirty, dangerous, and demeaning. If you see somebody in America who is painting the 28th floor of a building, 28th floor of the building, he will not be American, he will be a Mexican. If you go to UAE and see somebody is painting the 4th floor in a building, he will be either Indian or Pakistani or Bangladeshi. If you come to Kerala and see somebody building at the 6th floor, he is not a Malayali. Malayali will be painting in Dubai. Here somebody will from West Bengal or somebody from, I don't want to name the states. So please remember, they are doing dirty, dangerous, and demeaning. So the locals will talk too much. You want to work, get it done, you need migrants. So these policies will be talk of the town for short time. It may be even political thing. They will talk too much. When the election is over, the business will be as usual. I have seen Bombay. I was in Bombay 20 years back, 30 years back studying in Mumbai. They used to tell me migrants, Maharashtra or Maharashtrians, son of the soil. And it was started by a political party. Of course, that party is now ruling Bombay anyway. So this all will not work. I think this all will be good for politics, for the election manifesto, but the migrants will go back. So I am not trusting too much on that. It will be talk of the town for some time. Business will be as usual when you reach on January, February. The second point I want to make is this. COVID has brought us a lot. Not just it's an invisible war. And who is the enemy? Coronavirus. Every country is fighting. So when the fighting is over, migration business will be as usual, migration will pick it up. But 6 months, migrant will suffer because I have a trust. I have looked at the Gulf crisis, I have looked at the Niragat crisis, I have looked at the earlier crisis like a Gulf war. Short run, migrant will lose. Short run, migrant will suffer. Long run, they are the winner. They are the winner. I don't think you can stop anyone who want to leave to the outside the country. They will go. You cannot protect the border. They will go. That is something very important for us to learn. The another point I want to talk about the health workers. You know, today I was talking with some another researcher in the morning with a Zoom. Health worker also cannot go. There are barriers. Today, health worker can go only through the recruitment agencies run by the government. We have 7 agencies in India. You have to go through that. And what happened? The government data is showing not many nurses are going. Whereas nurses are going on visit visa. They get the job there. And then they join there. You may not know. I was asking one of the nurses, sir, you don't send somebody to Bombay saying that, look for a job. And he will stay with your cousin. What are you doing? Looking for a job in Mumbai. I'm looking for a job here, visit visa. So you are allowing, so you don't know the real data because you are putting lot of barriers for migration. You have to be, because India has a big demographic dividend. You can't give jobs. And you are talking about skill India. When you have skills, people have skills, and you are not giving them 200 rupees. What are you doing in the Indian country? NREG, 200 rupees, 100 days work. They will satisfy by that? No. I was asking them, you are giving 100 days work, but they need food for 365 days. What they will do 265? They will migrate. Unless you give them 365 days NREG and 200 rupees, they may not sit in the village. Otherwise, how do they sit? 100 days work. What they do other days? Sorry, they will come out. They will come to Mumbai, Chennai. So like that, migrants will continue. You should not have barriers for them. I think we should reduce the barrier in the post-COVID. We should learn from them. Now, regarding the terrorism, I think that's a very, very, very interesting question. All the unemployed can lead to terrorism. Today, we talk about red district in India. They talk about red district, what is called the Naxalites and things like that. Please remember, in 1970s, some of you who knows the Kerala history, Kerala had a lot of Naxals in Kerala in 1970s. Kerala is a good place for terrorism because you are close to the sea. Like Kerala and Jammu Kashmir, Kerala is close to the sea. And there was a terrorism in Sri Lanka. It would have been easy for the Kerala to collaborate with the LTT, make money. But unfortunately, 1970s, Gulf opened up. People went to Gulf. When they started seeing money, there is no Naxalism. Naxalism is only you are unemployed. When you are employed getting money, they all become capitalists now, not even Naxalists. They all become capitalists. So I think unemployment will create Naxalism, so we may not be able to give them employment. So at least India should facilitate orderly and safe migration. And India also should promote migration. Why should we feel shy? Why should I feel shy to promote migration? Today, India has a demographic advantage. I was telling one of the meeting, India can supply labor for all the 210 countries. Somebody want plumber, you can send them. Somebody want housemaid, you can send them. Somebody want nurses, you can send them. Somebody want unskilled, you can send them. Somebody want terrorist, you can send them. Somebody want retired police officer, you can send them. We have people. Why can't you openly promote migration? What is wrong? Openly we talk. We all want to migrate. Professors want to take 2-year leave and work in other countries to make extra money. Why can't everybody allow them? Give them freedom. So I think we should openly promote migration globally. I was telling to the Kerala government, you are asking the special flight from the Gulf. Next time when the COVID comes, you should ask them flight from New York to Trivandrum, not from Dubai to Trivandrum. Why? You should have people in New York also. So we should have, Indians should be in every country, not 100, 200. We should be in large number. We are number 1. Population, we are number 2. We will be number 1 in few years. After we will overtake China very soon. Then we should send our people, no barrier, facilitate them. Don't allow anyone to go undocumented. Give them an open policy. You want to go, please go. I was telling them you should have even a special employment exchange for migrants. Anybody want to migrate, there should be employment exchange. Like I was telling to Kerala, you have Kerala matrimony. You have Nair matrimony. What it is? You want to connect boys and girls. Why can't you connect migrants? Have a separate employment exchange for migrant. Some professor want to go for 3 years, he can put his biodata. Then people will look for it. It's like a matching. That's what the matrimony does. Kerala matrimony, Tamil matrimony, what it does. It provides you a lot of opportunities. You can look for so many boys, so many girls, you can choose. Like that, I should be able to choose where I want to go. Dubai or New York, I should decide. So I should be given choices. And that choice should be given by what is called the opening up the, what is called the migration corridor, migration issues. I have a few more minutes, so we'll take one more rounds of questions. Maybe a few questions.
Yes.
Thank you.
Only a couple of them. Dr. Meena Singh Roy was asking that is there any role for private sector in this kind of a situation? So maybe if you can throw some light on that. And there was also some question regarding the competition between return migrants with local workers in India, and then if they go back to Gulf countries, because of nationalization issues and all that. And there was also, I thought Dr. Sean Foley is here from the United States, and he wanted to ask a question. Maybe I can unmute him, and if he can just take a couple of minutes to ask his question. Dr. Sean Foley, if you are here, please ask your question.
Hi, one of the really interesting things that's emerged in the Gulf over the last 3 to 4 months has been a significant amount of nationalism and a significant amount, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we
a
can hear
significant
you.
amount of nationalism and a significant amount of focus on workers being, on expatriate workers being a threat. That's actually been a language that's been used, and patriotic duty. How does the Indian government look at managing that issue? Again, nationalization has not been a successful policy, or at least not fully successful for a significant period of time. But the political pressure within the Gulf now does seem to be pressing for that. How will the Indian government look at that issue?
Thank you, Dr. Sean Foley. And we have Dr. Joseph Kishishian from Lebanon, who is a leading expert on Gulf countries and a very good friend of the MEI. Maybe, sir, if you would like to ask a question, just a couple of minutes for you.
Well, thank you very much as well. I'm glad to have this opportunity to ask my question to the very, very interesting talk. You mentioned amnesty. Amnesty in the Gulf is a serious question. All of the governments of the Gulf now are really working very hard to come to terms with the undocumented workers. You've estimated about 1 million Indians undocumented in the Gulf. This is a huge number. What is the Indian government planning to negotiate the settlement of these undocumented workers so that they can be at least legalized and regularized? And finally, an important point that you mentioned, you said that a lot of these migrant workers are doing dirty work. This is true, but I think they're also doing dangerous work. And without the construction area, without the Indian workers in the construction area, we would not see the cities that have emerged, the factories that have emerged. So I would change a little bit that wording, with all due respect to you. And it's not dirty work, it's dangerous work. And I think that people ought to pay attention to that. Anyway, thanks for a great talk.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Kishishian, for your question.
Yeah.
I saw Pant sir also was there, Professor Pant. Sir, if you wanted to ask something, just for a minute, if you're here and if you want to ask. It seems sir has left.
Sir has left, okay.
Anyways, so maybe I think this is the final round of question where perhaps Professor Rajan can.
Yeah, I will because we have. Yeah, I will take up some questions. I think then probably we'll stop in another 5 or 6 minutes.
Yes.
You know, two things I want to make. One is that I think I was telling about 3D jobs is dirty, dangerous, and demeaning. So it includes all the wording, 3Ds. So dangerous is the word, not dirty is washing the, like for example, when I go to Gulf countries, who is washing the, maybe the bathroom is maybe an Indian. I asked one of the man when I was in the hotel in Dubai, he said, I asked him, did you wash your cup? You are drinking tea cup in your house? He said, that is her work. But you are washing the bathroom here. But that's okay. Yes, you don't see that. You are washing the bathroom anyway. So I think, this is a reality. I think this is what everybody does. I want to pick up, I think, two questions. One is this undocumented migrants. Now, this is something we should talk seriously, but unfortunately, there is no data. I am putting 10%. I am putting, in fact, I would put even 20%. I was estimating some time back, 20 to 30% of the Indians are undocumented, one of my estimates. And of course, the earlier estimate done by several scholars saying 10, 12% and other thing. But the problem is, we have to recognize that exists. Indian government has recognized that because that is very important. You have to recognize, I have some health problem. So we are thinking that there is nobody in the Gulf who is undocumented. We know that there are undocumented are there. And we have seen it in the Nidagat time. Nidagat time, there are many Indians were regularized. Lakhs of Indians. They were closing the door because they were raiding in the Nidagat period some 3 years back. So I think we have to recognize the problem, and it is one of the serious. We are talking about undocumented Bangladeshis in India. We talk about that. I think we should talk about every country has undocumented everywhere. I was telling to the European Commission one of the meeting, I have seen undocumented Europeans in Goa because we never asked them passport. I see people are walking in the Goa beach. Did you ask them you have a visa? No. Because I think if you look at undocumented, there may be some people in the beach in Kerala may be undocumented. But we don't worry. They pay the fine, they go. We don't make it very big because they are overstaying. But I think this is something we have to talk about that. The overstaying is very important issue. And many people are overstaying partly because policies created in India through visit visas and partly created by the Gulf country itself. They have a Kabbalah system. If you have working with one employer, you have a problem, then you leave without telling him, then you become undocumented. He will not give you your passport. So we have to study that very carefully. And finally, I think I saw one interesting question about brain drain. Now, I think I would like to have, rather than brain waste in India, let us have brain gain. Because, brain waste is something we should talk about that. Lot of brain are wasted in this country. Not wasted in JNU anyway, but wasted everywhere. So I think we should talk about not brain waste, brain drain. I think we should talk about brain. We should not talk about brain drain. We should talk about brain gain. We should send our people to study and come back. We have a lot of brain gain in India. We should talk about brain gain. We know a lot of people are coming back and return migrants, especially skilled migrants are coming back. So we should talk about this. What are we talking about? You have a shorter life and we want to be fully utilize your labor, your human development. Like I was telling, Kerala had educated everybody. They could not give jobs. All of them went out, they made money. Now Kerala has more money, but they have no jobs. I was talking one of the worker in Qatar. I went to a worker camp. I asked him, Are you are staying in a camp, there are 200 people, only one bathroom. Why can't you go back to God's own country? Kerala is God's own country. You left from Kerala. Then he told me, God has migrated from Kerala to Gulf. He is not in Kerala now. See, that is the reality Kerala people do. He has migrated to Gulf. I have only followed him. He is not in Kerala. So I think this is the attitude of people. We want to earn money. We want to come back because the migration means money. Nothing more. Everybody leaves what the economics says. If you are given extra salary, you leave your jobs. You move between university to university. Somebody is offering a higher position, we leave for 200 rupees, our jobs. If we are leaving 200 rupees, some promotion, one increment, people leave. 100 rupees, people leave within the country, changing organization, changing newspaper, changing media. Why? Extra 100 rupees. So I think the migrants have every right to move. We should not stop them. We should facilitate them so that India has orderly, safe migration throughout the world. I'm going to stop here. I think